Hai, Sobat Milenial, ketemu lagi dengan saya di Ngobrol Seru IDN Times. Kali ini saya lakukan dari Honolulu, Hawaii, karena saya sedang berada di sini untuk International Media Conference by ISWA Center. Dan hari ini kami mendapatkan kabar yang luar biasa menyedihkan. Karena kalian semua tahu tentu Rappler ya, IDN Times pernah bekerja sama dengan Rappler tahun 2018 dan kita ikuti selama 6 tahun terakhir Rappler, situs terkemuka di Filipina mendapatkan ancaman dan tekanan luar biasa dari pemerintahan Presiden Duterte. Dan hari ini, dan Maria Ressa, co-founder dan juga CEO dari Rappler itu mendapatkan ancaman tidak hanya bullying fisik, bahkan ancaman masuk penjara. Dan sebenarnya semalam waktu Indonesia dan juga waktu Manila, karena kan kita cuma beda 1 jam ya, Rappler mendapatkan informasi yang menurut saya ini adalah masa-masa kegelapan ya, dark day for freedom of the press, tidak hanya di Filipina tetapi ini juga untuk regional. Nah, Maria Ressa diundang untuk memberikan keynote speech di acara International Media Conference, dan sekarang saya sudah bersama dengan Maria Ressa untuk kita melakukan wawancara, bertanya banyak hal, banyak sekali dengan pemenang Nobel Perdamaian 2021. Hai Maria.
Hello, selamat malam dari Honolulu. Sorry, my hair is a mess.
So, the first one is light question, not about the problem, yeah.
Okay.
How's the life after Nobel Peace Prize? I saw you're busy traveling around the world, speaking in any part of the globe, giving the spirit to the journalists around the globe to fight for freedom of the press. All these things. How's the life?
Partly it's what is it? It's still part of being a news group that is under attack, and then realizing that there are so many journalists who work for organizations like ours, right? As illiberal leaders are elected, I had come from Bonn at the media conference there, and there you had Russian journalists who had fled Russia. Ukrainian journalists who are fighting a war, literally, they're in a war, they're covering a war, and for them it is news is survival, because how can Ukrainians find drinking water, or where can they go for gasoline? The Russian independent journalists said that they lost. This is what it looks like when you lose press freedom. And then you have all of the gradations. What is it like with the Nobel Prize? I don't know. It's still
I saw you become the VVIP. In Hawaii, I saw you get 5 or
oh my god,
so 5. What is it called? It's like
lays.
Yes.
But I gave away a lot already.
Lingkar. Yeah. Ini kalungan bunga khas Hawaii, teman-teman. Jadi Maria dapat banyak banget di semua acara, dia dapat kalungan bunga khas Hawaii karena dia memang tamu kehormatan di conference ini ya. So it's like everybody wants to see you, to invite you, to talk to you.
I think
I will be happy to become your manager.
Oh my god, I think
I'm very nice. You want to have a picture with Maria? Please do. I will take a picture. Remember last night?
Yes. So funny. I think, the Nobel Committee knew something, because 4 months after they gave the Nobel Prize to Russian Dmitry Muratov, who's the editor-in-chief of Novaya Gazeta, and then to me and Rappler, Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah.
And now Dmitry has stopped publishing, because if he uses the word war to describe what's happening in Ukraine, he could go to jail for 15 years. Right? And then for us in Rappler, well, here we go. Today we get a shutdown order. Press freedom is under attack. Yeah. Journalists are under attack. So what we do is even more important. I think the mission is even more important. And maybe one of the things, I'm optimistic. I'm an optimistic person.
You're always optimistic. I'm very, respect you for that. I mean, I just quietly hear you have meeting with Rappler team in Manila, and you always give them spirit, optimistic. This is not the end of the world, just like your lawyer Francis Lim said during the press, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yes, it's because it isn't the end of the world, and I think that's part of. So if you're a journalist under attack, you have to think through what are the worst case scenarios, and imagine it, so that if it happens, you're not surprised. I think that's one of the things we're realizing, and these gatherings of journalists become important because most of the time we get caught up in just here, right? Indonesians we don't realize that it is happening all around the world.
Yeah.
And that this particular time, and this is what the Nobel Committee showed, this is like a almost a century moment. Because if you think about it, the last time a journalist won the Nobel Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize, was in 1935. That's 85 years ago, 86 years ago, almost 100 years ago. Yeah. So, and what was happening then? Nazi Germany, the concentration camps. That journalist couldn't get his prize in Oslo because he languished in a Nazi concentration camp. Here we are again today. Yeah. And there is a rise of, and I don't use the word lightly, of fascism.
Yeah. Fascism, but it's different kind of different kind of fascism.
It is. It's different. It's us against them.
Yeah.
You know, it is. I mean, if you look at, there was another shooting in Norway, but if you look at the shootings in the United States, for example, or Christchurch in New Zealand, they talk about replacement theory, which is the us against them of white supremacies. Yeah. Right. So that's dangerous, I think, and alarming. Us against them. We shouldn't. When you other someone else, we know this in Indonesia, right? Yeah. In Ambon, in the 90s, right? Yeah. And you live in harmony for a long time, and then something sparks, and violence erupts.
Yeah. This morning, actually, we had appointment to this interview, and one of the questions that I want to ask to you is whether the Peace Nobel Prize give you safeguard of put you become more target from the government of Filipina. But if before that revocation decision, what will be your answer to that question?
I think I don't know. We have a new administration coming in. We've had just this year, we've had many more complaints than in all the time before. But all those complaints were actually thrown out, right? Just very recently. And a cabinet secretary tried to file a case against 7 news organizations. He decided to drop these charges, the complaints against the news organizations. I think we don't know what will happen. And you know what? Journalists are the best at dealing with uncertainty. Yeah. I treat it like it's breaking news. Yeah. Imagine when your life is breaking news. Yeah. It's horrible, but also livable. It's like you have to see, so what will happen next and how will we react? But the main goal is to keep doing accountability, to keep doing investigative journalism.
So today's the news is proof that the fact that you got Nobel Peace Prize is not make you become less target from the government, right?
I mean, I think the hard part here is you don't know the motivation behind it, right? And in less than 2 years, starting in 2019, I had 10 arrest warrants against me. I've been a journalist for 36 years. I haven't done anything wrong, but we were targeted. Maybe because I can't stop talking. But
because you are always send the message articulated, just like Joan and this morning panel. I think Cherry and George said that when journalists do the right thing, then they started to get attacked, to get attacked, right?
Correct.
That I think that what you guys doing in Philippines. So 30th of June, this is only 2 days before the end of President Duterte administration.
The beginning of the Marcos administration.
So do you see that it's going to be similar similar policy in handling or treat the freedom of the press?
I don't know. I mean, look, let me put it this way, right? This is the outgoing administration. A week earlier, for the very first time, the Philippine government used the anti-terror law to actually block websites, progressive news sites. They're small groups, and they blocked them. And then, they said, well, you can file a case, but they've already been blocked, right? And then now you have this, which of course we will fight. And that's part of the reason, I think, I started my keynote with this. We don't know what this administration will be like. I do think that the Philippines is in geopolitically in a tug of war between China and the United States. And, that could be something but a long time U.S. ally, at the same time, a really burgeoning Chinese ally. And then, of course, there's Russia. I mean, it'll be... So I don't know what will happen next, but I will say that I continue to appeal to this incoming administration, the Marcos administration, that they strengthen rule of law, that they don't look at journalists as enemies, that we have a role to play, that's checks and balances, that we actually make them better at their jobs of governance. And where they go, they take the entire nation, and we're citizens in this nation, right? Why would we be enemies? Why would we not want them to do well? But if they were doing wrong, if they're corrupt, or if they're doing anything harmful, that's part of what the journalist, I think, is supposed to do.
Okay, so what are the most important lessons for the media and journalists in covering the election in the current situation where the global platform dominate the distribution of media content? I mean, from Rappler experience. Because Indonesia will experience election in 2024, but the step started in this June.
2024 is when your elections are. I see.
But the heat already there, because the polarization in our society is there and still very very significant, even though Prabowo and Sandiaga Uno, which is the competitor of President Jokowi, already adopted in the current cabinet, but still the followers, the supporter for in both sides is still
So the question is, what will happen?
No, what is the
lessons learned? Okay, so this is where I hold technology platforms accountable, right? Because what we have seen is the world's largest delivery platform for news are no longer news organizations. They're technology platforms. And those technology platforms don't protect users. They don't protect the public sphere. They don't protect the facts. They don't protect truth. Right, and one of the Joan Donovan from the Shorenstein said that it should be a human right to have truth, right? And I've said this so often in the last 6 years: if you don't have facts, you can't have truth. If you don't have truth, you can't have trust. If you don't have these three, you have no shared reality. You can't talk to each other. You can't govern. You can't have democracy, and that's what these tech platforms are doing to us. They're not like news organizations. They actually put their finger on a scale and they decide. It's almost like you get in an Uber or you get, in a Gojek. And then the Gojek or the Uber driver will take you where he wants to go, not where you want to go. And that's the problem with our information ecosystem today. I've said that, in the Nobel lecture, I called it the atom bomb. That's exploded in our information ecosystem. So here you are moving to elections. The insidious manipulation of voters, right? People who are going to vote. If they don't know what the facts are, how can they vote wisely? Journalists always say this: vote wisely, think. If they don't think, if they're being insidiously manipulated, so they're angry, or they're hateful, or they believe in conspiracy theories that aren't true, right? This is a problem. So this is part of the reason the world is the way it is today. And it must change, because India so it's 2024, Indian elections and Indonesian elections. That's
a big
that will change the world.
I read a lot of analysis why Bongbong Jr., Marcos Jr., which is the son of the dictator, late President Marcos, that ousted by the people power 36 ago, it got a lot of vote from youth via TikTok. I mean,
Yeah.
And all this young generation have not been born at that time.
Yeah.
And the campaign team kind of pumped the information that put late President Marcos as a hero rather than the dictator. So it's kind of like brainwash the youth generation. So this social media, TikTok, especially the latest one in the social media, kind of like play a very important in the election. That will be happen in Indonesia too, because TikTok is really the most popular thing among youth.
Absolutely. And it's more addictive. It's more addictive than Facebook or YouTube. It's a different set of algorithms, right? So yes, and this is the problem, right? So where is the line between insidious manipulation of what we think and the individual will to choose the vote, right?
Did you guys in Rappler saw it coming? That TikTok is become
I'm sure you're
important.
Also on TikTok, right? So
Yeah.
our younger reporters are on TikTok. I'm not, but I think this is
the fact that they are doing it via TikTok rather than the Facebook, like previous one,
Right.
or Instagram. Right. Did you guys saw it coming?
Yes, but right now, so it may shift already by the time your elections come around, but TikTok is roughly 39 million in Southeast Asia. And if you're talking that, it's far below Facebook, but it's, I think, more addictive, right? So we'll see. Again, the landscape will change, but here's the thing. There must be guardrails. There has to be laws to govern tech platforms and how much they can manipulate our emotions and our minds.
That we are in Indonesia on the process to propose the publisher rights bill, just like in Australia. Right?
Oh my gosh, you are! I didn't realize. Okay.
But the question is, if we give the power to the politician in the parliament and then an executive, don't you think that also can become the threat that the power to control the platform is on their side, on the power that be?
So this is why the legislation has to be right. It can't be censorship of content. It's not content moderation that you want to look at. You want to look at algorithmic amplification, because an algorithm is just opinion in code, right?
Yeah.
And then you want to look at the business model itself, surveillance capitalism. And when you look at content, so part of the problem with like Australia's laws are who decides who benefits and who loses, right? That's even in the types of news groups, right? So this is fundamentally, these are the flaws when you put it back to control of government. But I will say that one of the best legislation so far that we've seen is the EU's Democracy Action Plan.
Yeah, we also see that. We also learn from them.
So the Digital Services Act and the Market Services Act, and they will kick in the spring this year.
Okay. So I still have two questions, but let me ask you to answer. Nurni was ISWA Center alumni and also the member of Indonesian Women Journalists Forum. Maria Ressa, what's your next plan in your journalistic life? Hopefully it is not the end of your career, of course. It is a new start, right? We with you from Women Journalists from Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't know, Rappler is about 120 people now with everyone there. And we know that this time is important. So we'll just keep doing our work and then we'll see. It's a bit uncertain. I can't leave the Philippines without court approvals. I have to get court approvals from the courts that hold the 7 charges against me.
Including this trip?
Including this trip. Yeah.
Okay.
So Yeah, so they know where I am. They know what flight I take home, what flights I take out.
It's really surveillance. So you're under surveillance. Like, remember the movie, The Enemy of the State?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, you said that, you keep saying that we cannot depend on the tech platform, but the fact that they still, I mean, in Indonesia, they still contribute to 80% of distribution of the content of the media in Indonesia.
Yeah.
And then, if we are creating our own platform like tech, like app, the IDN app has it.
Yeah.
We know that the investment is high.
Yeah.
Not many media can do that. Thousands of small media cannot do that, and they are kind of like, probably they didn't realize that they become part of the game of this algorithm.
Right. Of the social media platforms.
Yeah.
Correct.
What do you think about this situation?
I think that if part of there were three pillars that I talked about, which is part of our the core of Rappler, but also the solution to the problems that we have, right?
Technology, journalism, community. That will happen also in IDN Times.
Right. So technology, journalism, and community. Technology, we need to build our own tech.
Yeah.
And, the more journalists work together to do that, the better it is. And the tech that we started rolling out the tech this year, actually the last year into this year. We're onboarding our communities now. It is, we build communities of action, and the food we feed our communities is journalism. You have to strengthen journalism. It's not about giving people necessarily what they want. It's not about the joke or what you had for dinner. It's news. Like the Ukrainian news director was saying, in Ukraine, news is survival. People need news, right? And then finally, the last one is, I don't think we would have survived the last 6 years of Duterte if our community didn't support us. So you build these communities of action that reflect your values, and we go to the values. Right? What are the values?
So all these move PAs, all these communities still there?
Yes.
So and
that's part of what supported us through these years.
That's very. It's become the ecosystem of Rappler, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
The last one, women journalists become the target more than male journalists in online threat, and you become the target since 2016. We were still together in Rappler that time.
Yes.
So how do you cope with that? What is your advice to women journalists? When we know that some of the women journalists that invited in this conference, they are not using their real name in the social media because they can easily get attacked. So they use other name.
Yes.
But we have our real name.
Yeah.
But you got a lot of threat, included that threat.
Yeah.
What is your advice to women journalists in dealing with the online threat?
So, Uni, you were still with Rappler when we counted that women in the Philippines, for example, were attacked at least 10 times more than men. So we survive by not absorbing it. It's not about you. It's more about pounding you to silence. That the end goal of all these attacks is actually to take you out of the information ecosystem. And that's the study that UNESCO and the International Center for Journalists did. They showed that 60% of the attacks against me, and they went over almost 500,000 social media attacks, 60% were meant to tear down my credibility, 40% were meant to tear down my spirit. And so that's kind of the way. So advice for women is, one, you're not alone. This is happening. It's almost like these illiberal, these digital populists, these authoritarians are unleashing the worst of humanity, and they're giving everyone permission to be their worst selves. And inevitably that includes sexism or misogyny. And when that happens, if it's normal people, yes, so there's a lot more of them being sexist or misogynistic. But most of the time what we see in countries where democracy is at risk is that this is information operations. That's what happened to me. This is targeted. I was targeted. And once I realized that, then I was, okay, it's not going to get to me. So I guess advice number 1 is understand why it's happening. Number 2 is don't take it inside. It's not about you. This third is ask for help, right? You're not alone. There are other women who will help you. Your news organizations should help you. We've learned this now over the years. In October 2016, when we really first came under immense attack, we gave our young reporters and our social media specialists, what we call Digicom specialists, we asked them to see a counselor, right? So that they can talk about it. So this really plays with your mind. And now post-COVID, that's even worse, right? Yeah. So, you're not alone. You didn't make the mistake. I mean, sometimes it's a mistake. That's kind of the way I reacted at the beginning. I went back over all my data again and I was right. So don't let it take your voice out.
So I have privilege to know in person Maria and Rappler team. You guys always agile, bold, brave. So I honestly speaking, I don't really kind of like worry even though this time, because I know that this thing will,
pass. Well, I don't know. You know what? It's a challenge. It's just a challenge.
But I think, I don't know. I hope that the next presidency is not kind of like in Indonesia, what menantang ya, challenging the world. Yeah. This is different world. This is like exactly. Borderless. Everyone know that it's not easy to be part of the global ecosystem if you are not,
Correct.
The last one. I learned selfie journalism from Maria Ressa. Remember?
Yes.
So this is the kind of we were both working for TV with all of this satellite news gathering with 14 people, 15 people. But since 2013, I think Rappler was the first institution that did the Facebook live stream. I remember that, right? And we learned about it. So. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
To that. Thank you there.
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you. Take care and keep your healthiness. You become skinnier.
No, the same.
Oke, teman-teman, itu tadi obrolan saya dengan Maria Ressa, co-founder dan CEO dari Rappler dan juga pemenang Nobel Perdamaian, dan sampai ketemu di ngobrol seru berikutnya. Bye.
Selamat malam.